Hi, my name is Christopher Newsom, and I am the editor and post-production supervisor of Road to Victory. The rotoscoping you are about to see here was done by Bart Stevens, a friend of ours on a home PC in Adobe After Effects. The way this illusion of day for night was achieved was through a combination of rotoscoping and a luminance key to remove the sky. Once that was accomplished, we relied heavily on Final Cut Pro's three-way color corrector to selectively desaturate the greens and darken the image overall. As you see, this required several passes with that filter amongst several others, such as the Boris Continuum Rain filter, in order to achieve a seamless continuity throughout the scene. Part of making this work was trying to make the actual night footage look more like the day for night footage. The daytime footage simply had hotter highlights and increased saturation due to the nature of shooting video in daylight, so boosting our contrast levels in the actual night footage was a massive part of why the scene actually works. The slow motion was by and large achieved using Twixtor Pro, a plugin for Final Cut Pro that will actually interpolate frames and write them in between the existing frames. The difficulty is that if you've got a relatively short clip without a lot of handles, good luck getting it to work right. The workaround I found for that was to use Final Cut Pro to slow the clip, then use one pass of Twixtor to speed it back up, and then use yet another pass of Twixtor to slow it back down again. I had to do this just to get the overall clip length we needed in order to edit the scene together. With the game footage, it was originally shot on a practice field, and a stadium was added, again by Bart Stevens in After Effects, with a combination of a luminance key and rotoscoping. This was undertaken because it simply wasn't in the means of our production to shoot in front of a sellout crowd in a football stadium. And the director felt that the audience needed to see Elliot playing football in front of a crowd in order to raise the stakes, so to speak, about the very real prospects of his professional career. This scene's a good example of the important role an editor plays in making the visual effects seem real. Not only was sound design imperative to creating the belief that there were more players on the field and people in the crowd, we also relied on quick edits, made clear by a continuous point of focus, in order to hide the effects shots. Look at the stadium sequences again from two different scenes. Cut, 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 cut. Never enough time for the eye to wander to the background and notice the fact that everything is composited, but just enough time to take in the setting. Given the non-linear nature of the story structure, color correction was an essential part of the storytelling to help differentiate between past, present, future, and dreamscape. There was a deliberate decision made in pre-production not to shoot with any effects filters in camera in order to allow for complete control in post. Digital video, while inexpensive and very convenient, has its flaws as a form of image acquisition. Despite the best efforts of our very talented cinematographers, some of the original footage revealed artifacting and overblown colors. We used a number of tools to overcome this, including the RGB balance, the three-way color corrector, and the desaturate lows filter. But visual effects and color correction are more than the ability to fix mistakes made on the day and magic tricks to pull off in post what simply wasn't practical or possible in camera. They can also become cinematic devices, utterly necessary for the cohesion of the story. In the strip club scene, we decided we needed a different type of device to show the main character's past. You'll notice we used full black and white with a filter, G-Beauty by Graham Natris, to soften the luminance channel on the stadium shots, but a different treatment altogether for the rest of the flashbacks. We did this because we felt first and foremost, football needed to feel as epic as possible and almost exist in its own world, so to speak. Secondly, a lot of the other footage in the flashbacks just didn't look very cinematic in black and white, as the cinematographers relied heavily on the use of rich colors in the frame. After experimenting with a number of different treatments, including video-esque treatments, Super 8, etc., we decided on selective desaturation with a blur vignette. Using a three-way color corrector, I desaturated the less saturated parts of the frame and oversaturated the parts of the frame that already had the most color. The result was an image that looked very dreamlike and otherworldly, especially with the luminance softening filter from G-Beauty, which is a commonality throughout all of the flashback sequences. The blur vignette was achieved using two layers of the source footage, one with a feathered garbage matte and a blur filter. Simple, but very effective.
Just one more time.
Sometimes visual effects need to stand out, like the black and white treatment on the stadium shots, or the selective desaturation on the flashback narratives. These cinematic devices trigger a change in the thought process for audience members, a visual cue that what you are seeing is different and exists outside the literal narrative. However, other effects need to be as transparent as possible. The day for night footage, the composited stadium shots, the rain and lightning effects we put in the football scenes, the color correction to remove artifacting and sweeten the image, etc. What's really the most important thing to consider in visual effects is motivation. Why is this shot in the film? What does the effect do for the story? What's it saying to the audience?